The Big Sister experience is here to share honest conversations and insights around life, mental health, and well-being. While we aim to inform and inspire, the content of this podcast is for general information purposes only. If any topics raises questions or concerns for you, we encourage you to seek professional support or advice before acting on any topics discussed. To begin today's episode, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are recording from, the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We acknowledge that learning through conversation and stories is an Indigenous practice that has been done on this land for centuries before us. We want to pay our respect to any Indigenous or Torres Strait Islander people listening and elders past and present. We acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded and it always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Content warning. Before we begin, please note that this episode will include conversations including pregnancy, abortion, stigmas, and slut-shaming. Everyone processes these topics differently. So please take care of yourself in whatever way you need, whether that means pausing, stepping away, or reaching out to someone you trust. If you are struggling, you're not alone. Support is available. There are resources at the end of every episode for those who need it.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thanks, Caitlin.
We're doing it again. I'm so excited. My name is Caitlin. My pronouns are she, her. I'm with Marimba.
My pronouns are also she, her.
So we are back with Marimba upon popular request, but really I just wanted to chat with Marimba a bit more. But we are going to jump back into, last time Marimba was here, we spoke a lot about sexual health, just about sex generally. And we want to get a bit deeper. As a topic, there are so many ways it can go and so many different avenues. And we're going to go a different avenue today. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Sisterhood Space. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're coming back again, welcome back. It's so good to have you here. If you are new, we are from the Big Sister experience. We run workshops with female identifying and gender diverse students about all things mental health and well-being. We kind of delve into topics that we wish we knew when we were younger, maybe so people don't make the same mistakes we did, kind of open that up, which is really fun and I really love doing it. But yeah, we want you to enter the sisterhood space however you feel most comfortable. I know that as a kind of topic, it sounds quite gendered, like the sisterhood space, but that's really just us being that big sister figure, giving you those like tips, tools, advice. So yeah, feel free to enter however you feel best. And with that being said, we are the big sisters. You're in the space. Welcome to the sisterhood space.
So every workshop we give an opportunity for the students to put some anonymous questions into a box. And like we said in the last episode as well, where Caitlin and I were speaking, they often are about sex, sexuality,
those kind of tricky questions,
relationship issues, all those kind of things is often what they will be asking in the anonymous, even if the workshop is not specifically about those topics. These topics always come up.
I'm excited to like delve into this again. I'm keen to like go through it. Today's episode might be big, so we're going to get straight into it. We're going to answer these questions. First one, honestly, surprisingly often we get this, but I think I'm pregnant. What do I do? My mind first goes to like periods, the menstrual cycle, back to the beginning. I think just as women, females, people with a uterus and a vagina, we have periods. It's normal. It's just a part of life. It can take up to 6 years for a menstrual cycle to become regular, happen every 28 days when it's meant to. Mine didn't become regular for ages. So I always, when people are thinking like I might be pregnant, it's usually because their period's late or they've missed a period or there's just something not their normal for your period. That would be my first thought. It's okay to have irregular periods and to miss them. If it's a concern, going to a GP, going to a doctor, speaking to a trusted adult. But yeah, periods sometimes are just irregular. I would go and get a pregnancy test to be sure, because it could just be an irregular period. You can go and get a pregnancy test without an adult. You don't need a parent. You don't need anyone over the age of 18. You can go and get it on your own, bring a friend. You can go and get a pregnancy test to have that knowledge, because it could just be an irregular period. But yeah, pregnancy tests, you can go to a chemist, at supermarkets, you can get them pretty much everywhere. You don't need a parent's permission for that. Also, the morning after pill, I believe it's called like an emergency contraceptive pill, but it's like better known as like the morning after pill. If you think you might be pregnant, you also can go and get that pill from a chemist, and you also don't need a parent to be there. You can get that on your own. You can get that at any age. They do ask you some questions, but that's just to make sure that it's safe for you to take, just if you're on any other medications, things like that. But yeah, you don't need an adult or a parent to purchase those either.
Yeah, so with the morning after pill, we obviously teach safe sex practices in our workshop 3. But what we know and what we say to the young people is we know life happens, people make mistakes, maybe the condom breaks, maybe you didn't use a condom, things happen. And sometimes we might be worried that we're pregnant. One of the ways that if you have had unprotected sex, you can sort of mitigate or reduce your chances of being pregnant is to go the very next day to the chemist and get the emergency contraceptive pill. You just ask the pharmacist. They'll probably ask you a few questions. It's just to make sure that they're not giving you anything that's not good for you. You don't need your parents' consent. Again, we're not advocating for this, but rather than an unwanted pregnancy and having to have an abortion that's later down the track, we give this information.
Yeah, I also just for information, the emergency contraceptive pill is behind the counter. So you actually do need to go and ask someone for it. It's not just like Panadol or Nurofen or like the other things in a chemist that you can find on the shelf. You have to go up to the pharmacist and ask for that.
Another thing that I love to say in workshops is one of my metaphors or analogies is that, in the beginning, our period really is like a puppy. It's like all over the place. And similar to Caitlin, I share that I only got my period when I was 15, like right on the other end of the normal kind of bell curve. And I reckon I was 22, 23 before it became really regular. So just really reiterating that. And again, sometimes we have to just mention, like, you can't get pregnant if you're not sexually active. To really know that, like, you have to be sexually active to get pregnant, because sometimes there can be that fear and the person hasn't actually even been sexually active. So that little caveat in there as well.
So when we get that question, I think I'm pregnant, what do I do?
It just reminds me of one. It was, I went into a year 7 workshop and we were doing workshop 3, which is all things sexual health, consent, romantic relationships. And I thought, I wonder if this is bringing this too early. Like, are they too young to hear all this? There were 3. I'm worried I'm pregnant. Anonymous question, sorry. So that was such an eye-opener for me, and I don't know about you, Caitlin, but sometimes people will put things in and you're like, is this a joke? Or is this not a joke? But I think
you kind of always just have to take it of like real.
We always 100% take it as real. And we say that if somebody truly is pregnant or not, we're going to speak to it as if it is.
And it's just good information to have.
Yeah. We get pretty serious when we get these questions in the workshop, which, like Caitlin said, is pretty often, unfortunately. Yeah. And our advice is always don't wait. Even though it might be hard to speak to a trusted adult, you don't have time to think about it too long, because the pregnancy is developing and you need to actually seek medical help and hopefully support from a trusted adult.
I am going to speak to some actual information, because obviously there are so many laws and legalities and like, what are we giggling at?
I'm giggling at actual information.
Okay. Yes. I have got some information, so I'm going to be reading it because I want to make sure we're giving across like some actual facts and tangible kind of help and information, more than just like that advice, because obviously we are not medical professionals, we are not trained psychologists. This is just coming from a place of we run these workshops, we get those questions. I want you to like have the most important and most valuable information that you can get. So I think most commonly when we talk about people thinking that they're pregnant, a lot of the times they're underage. We work with students, so they're still in school, they're under the age of 18. So people are kind of curious about parental permission and like going to a doctor without their parents knowing, and that kind of fear of what do I do? So in New South Wales, Victoria, and Queensland, you are not legally required to tell your parents. There is also no age limit for getting an abortion. If you are under 16, the doctor considers your age, your maturity level, and your understanding of the seriousness of what you're about to be doing, or like just in general, that conversation. If they think you are not mature enough or you are not kind of understanding the situation, they may ask for a parent. but it is not necessary to begin with. You do not need to be there with a parent to have that conversation. I think that's just an important knowledge to have.
I think the big thing to know is that abortion is a human right for every single woman on the planet. So that is absolutely fundamental to know. And again, we don't go into our workshop saying that person writing this should have an abortion. But the thing is that after 24 weeks, in Victoria, for example, it becomes illegal to have an abortion because the fetus has become a fetus and it's too hard to have that abortion unless there's medical reasons that you can use. Those are all the legalities. But basically, you have a very finite time to have an abortion if that's what you choose to do. We don't tell the young people that that's what they have to choose. You know, people can choose to maintain the pregnancy, but even in that situation, it's really important that they get to some kind of medical help really quickly because, you know, there's vitamins that are really helpful to take, like folate, B9. It's really important for a healthy baby, for example, and for a healthy mum. And so there's all these things that we basically say, this is not a joke. This is very serious. This is very real. And you need to deal with it right now. Even though it's scary, maybe you can't speak to your parents, but you need to go to Wellbeing. You need to go to some trusted adult. You can see I'm doing this with my hands because it's just one of those situations where when this comes up in a workshop, this is no messing around. And we really try to get that across. And also to say, like, this happens. They might have had protected sex, or maybe the condom broke, or who knows what the scenario is. And you know what? The scenario actually at this point is irrelevant. It's become very physical. It's become very real. They need to deal with it now. And there's no shame in it. We just need to get help and get sorted and make sure that the mother's safe, and whatever she decides to do with the pregnancy is her choice.
I think that's so important of we aren't advocating a right or a wrong. I don't think there is a right or wrong answer. It's based on the person that is pregnant and what you think is best for you and your child. Unfortunately, so many people now in just like society and politics think that they can say what's right and they think that they get the final say and I want to do this and I'm going to make that law. But no, I think it is so important that you really trust your gut and listen to yourself and what do I want for my child, but also getting that care. We do speak medically, like finding that doctor and you want like physically everything to be okay, but mentally, if it is a trusted adult, maybe you don't feel like you can speak to your parents, and some people don't have that connection, but do you have a guardian? Do you have an older sibling? Do you have an aunt or a cousin or a school well-being or like a social worker, a counselor? Like find those kind of options. At the end of every episode, we do leave resources. So there are things like Kids Helpline, Lifeline. There are so many other like options for you as well, like finding that support.
Literally 1-800-MY-OPTIONS is one of the key ones to do with pregnancy. And there's lots of free clinics around that will bring you in and will make sure that you're safe and look after you in the right way. That's just one of the ones where we don't say anything else.
Amazing. Next question. Huge, big one. We're going to delve in. I keep getting slut shamed. What do I do? I have heard this honestly way too many times. I think it just keeps kind of coming up in such subtle ways and in such different ways, and it can be hard feeling othered, feeling left out, feeling boxed in, and kind of feeling like people are projecting onto you. I feel like this is your realm. Let's get into it.
Well, I just also feel equally we get the one where it's like especially when we get into the older years, we'll get the anonymous question like, I'm worried that I'm still a virgin. I think it's either being slut shamed or feeling like worried that they haven't had sex yet.
You can never do right. It's always, you think you're doing the right thing by this and someone will cut you down for that, and then you do the opposite and they'll cut you down for that. And I think it can be so tricky to just like be a teenager. I mean, I'm not far off it, 21, I still remember, but it was brutal. You just feel like you couldn't do anything without it being the wrong thing or without someone having an issue with it.
It's definitely one of the hardest times in anyone's life. Everyone is comparing each other to each other. Everyone's worried about what everyone else is doing, what they're doing, that internalized sort of shame around it all. I mean, I think what's happening now, and I think this is what we really wanted to speak to a little bit, is that the online world as well is just bringing such an onslaught of bullying, and especially sexualized bullying, and also a whole load of content that is creating these old-fashioned paradigms are coming back in vogue. Like we often talk about red pill content, which is
Yeah.
it's sort of Andrew Tate, but it's evolved into a whole what is being called the manosphere, where it's how to be a man and how to be women, treat them mean, keep them keen. And within that, I think there's a body count analogy. I've listened to them talk about this. It's like a man, his status goes up by how many people he slept with. So how high his body count is, and women, their status goes up how low their body count is. So it's like this whole thing around, a good woman will have slept with preferably no one, and men will be a real stud, which is very old school paradigms coming back.
Yeah, and that real like trad wife theory.
Do you want to explain what trad wife means?
Trad wife is like traditional wife. It's like just shortened. But we see those influences that kind of bring back that more traditional roles for a woman and for a wife to like stay at home and raise the kids and cook for the husband and clean for the husband. And those traditional roles kind of, honestly, I feel like has been worked really hard for feminism, and through the different waves of feminism it's kind of worked to like women can work for themselves and don't have to provide, and we should be able to do this. And it seems just so kind of disheartening to watch that all be stripped back to women kind of now performing that and being like, you should do this and I'm a good wife because I do that, and you can do whatever you want. I am all for everyone kind of having their own decisions and raising your family and living your life how you want best. And if you do want to cook, clean, stay at home, good for you. Like that's what you want. But I don't want people to be watching this content and thinking that's what I have to do. You do not have to cook and clean for your husband. You do not have to raise kids if you do not want kids. Like I think that this content being so pushed onto this younger generation is really enforcing these stereotypes. And when you're so young, you can't have that discernment yet. And if you're just seeing this and thinking, I need to do this and I need to do that, it's just really kind of damaging at such a young age.
And they're also using like, this is what a real man looks like. This is what a real woman looks like. And talking about masculinity and femininity and really giving these ideals. And often the men that are saying what real men look like, they've got lots of muscles and they've got cars, and I think, young men in general are I think young people, and let's be honest, all people are feeling a little bit lost a lot of the time, wondering what's my purpose, what's the meaning of all this, and they're looking for role models, and there's a bit of a vacuum there, I think, for them. And then they're pulled into these scenarios. They did a study where it was a female researcher set up two accounts, one for a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And one for a 15-year-old boy. Those might have been the other way around. But within 17 minutes, the boys were getting all sorts of content, like manosphere type content, finance, just really, really quickly, like an insanely quick amount of time. The girls were getting all stuff around eating, and then very quickly eating disorders, self-harm, suicide ideation, like just the sort of this wave coming at them within just a ridiculously short amount of time. And I mean, you have no risk assessment when you're in your teenage years. You're literally like a sponge. You're so open. All that stuff is coming. And what we're seeing this in real time in the workshops that we're running. Young women, young girls, like speaking out, like saying, I'm scared to go to the lockers past a certain group of boys. And it seems to be very much when the boys get into these groups. So I think what it is for young men, for young boys, for men in general, is like they're actually trying to impress the other boys. They're not trying to impress the girls.
Yeah.
But the real-time effect of that is that girls are genuinely scared to walk to their lockers, scared to walk upstairs because they say, they're being upskirted. I don't think the young people, like the young men, know that this is actually, a sexual assault. Like it's not, it's actually sexual assault, that it's completely going beyond legal boundaries.
But it's all they know.
It's all they know. And what they're being shown online is these guys going, women
are your property and you should be able to, and it's like a real man will do this. And it's like, it's honestly just terrifying to think about. Like we could chat for hours about how all of these algorithms work, and it's just so terrifying to kind of think about the pressure that young girls are feeling, and just young people in general. Like doing these workshops and seeing it in real time is sad and disheartening. And I think the question of like, I keep getting slut shamed, what do I do, is like,
it's huge.
It's just
and so hard to answer. Yeah, it really is.
It's more just like find your people, listen to those people, find those trusted adults, rely on those friendships and those relationships, and like lean on people. Don't isolate and don't kind of hold that in. It's okay to like reach out for help, and it's okay to like find that support. And I want you to be supported through this. And I don't want you to feel like you're the only one feeling this and like it's forever. I know for me in high school and people kind of spreading rumors and gossiping and like labeling you and boxing you into something, it feels like it will never end, and it feels like this is how I always will be seen and will be known. But when you leave high school, you realize just how small it was. And I look back now and I go, nobody cared. I couldn't tell you a single thing about half the people I went to high school with, but it just feels so current.
It's your whole world.
Yeah, and just understanding like it will end and it will hurt, and I know you're feeling it, and I don't want to like discredit that and be like, but we just wait like 3 years. But honestly, like it will hurt for now and it feels current, but through time, everything kind of grows. Your first heartbreak feels so bad and so big, and like you'll never recover because it's so current and you've never experienced it before. And that, like, I hate being that adult that's like, it will get better and you don't even understand. But it's
Time
true.
heals all. But
I know.
and just going back to the slut shamed question, I think it's also really important just to let listeners know and also let the young people know, which we do, that if you are sexually active and you do have multiple partners, that's entirely your choice. If that's really genuinely what you feel comfortable with in your body, just making sure you stay safe in terms of condoms, especially if you're having multiple partners. The only thing that will protect you against sexually transmitted infections or diseases is condoms. Even if you're on the pill, that means you're not likely to get pregnant. 99% if you're using the pill right, 93%.
Yeah, it drops if like human error, if you miss a pill, and
We're all likely to miss a pill here and there. So just knowing that the pill doesn't protect you against STIs. So if you're having lots of partners, it's really important to make sure that you're using that protection. And if you're not using protection, again, human error, it happens, making sure you go to the clinics and make sure you have those STI tests. We talk about stuff like chlamydia. You might not have any symptoms, but you just want to make sure you don't have something like that because it can cause infertility in the future.
there are also different forms of condoms. I think when people think of condoms, they think of like for a penis, but there are not obviously, but there are like vaginal condoms that are for a vagina that go inside. There's like those barriers that are just kind of like latex, and it's more of like a sheet than anything that can be like put on or inserted. So yeah, there's a lot of different things. Wash your hands, make sure you're like good hygiene. I just that's important as well.
At the Big Sister experience, we don't go into shame. We really go into educate. So when we're getting a question like this, we will remind the person of all the safe practices they need to be taking if that's their choice. And we will also talk about the whole gender stereotyping. And there's this huge discrepancy going on between the genders, unfortunately, and it's getting bigger. And I just feel like it's happening so underground. A lot of adults in these young people's lives have no idea what's happening. I think there's more and more stuff coming out in the media now, just really understanding how it's destroying the fabric of our society.
I don't know how many young people understand why they even are thinking the way they are. Like the people that are doing the slut shaming, I don't know if they even understand why that's how they feel. And it is that very like subliminal kind of constant in the background algorithm and feed, and like what you're seeing just kind of sits in there and you're not even kind of aware because you've been scrolling for 2 hours, but suddenly that's now a formed thought and you're projecting it, and it's difficult to kind of unravel that and live with.
And I mean, we've spoken about this before, but it's the loneliest generation. Young people are spending so much time online. They're going down all these rabbit holes. I was listening to a young man talk about recently that he spent 5 years in this manosphere rabbit hole, and how he's had to like rehabilitate himself and come back out of that whole process. It's really not fair what these online companies are doing. And yeah, we try to really educate around that as well.
Well, amazing. To end our episodes, we love to finish our episodes with what we are loving and what we are leaving for the week. What am I leaving this week? Other people's opinions. I want to have more of a like boundary around what people are saying isn't always the truth, and I don't have to listen to it all, and kind of setting a boundary of being intentional with what I'm kind of taking on board. That is what I am leaving. What are you leaving?
I am leaving this feeling of powerlessness around that these big corporations and companies can just come in and destroy the fabric of our society and of our young people's mental health with like no regard for them And I actually feel quite proud to be in Australia right now with the social media ban. I know it's going to be messy and young people will find a way around, but I feel like it's just symbolically saying, no, you cannot just come with no rules and hurt these young people, hurt society in general. So that's what I'm leaving, the powerlessness, because I think we do all have a say and some power in it.
And what are you loving?
What I'm loving is that, again, we're having this conversation. You know, me as an older generation is aware of this, that I've had the opportunity to sit in circle with year 10s, year 11s, and for them to completely open up their heart and soul to me and tell me what's actually happening. Not just like something I'm hearing in the background, but to hear it from their very mouths, and for them to share it amongst each other and to just see that sisterhood grow and grow and grow. It's like so
It is
exciting.
pretty special.
Yeah, I love it.
I am loving good connections. I'm loving having friendships and relationships and connections in my life that feel genuine and feel valuable and that I can like rely on. And I know that I have like people in my circle that I just like genuinely love and adore. And I think that is special and comes with time and comes and goes, and it can be tricky, but like I just love the people in my life. Well, what an episode, what a conversation, what a chat. If you could like relate to this, if you feel like that is valuable information for yourself or for a friend, share it. We want this information to like get to the people who want it. So like, share, comment, rate. If you're listening, if you're watching, share this with a friend, bring up these conversations, have those discussions. Maybe there's a trusted adult you want to be chatting to these things about. Maybe this can spark that conversation. Go for it. We want this space to be yours. If you've never had the opportunity to like ask these questions or share these thoughts, we would love that this sisterhood space could be that for you. Leave those in the comments. If you have a question, if you want something answered, like let us know. We would love to have that conversation and see if we can give you those answers. We literally do this every single day. We go to these schools. We have heard everything. I have heard every question under the sun. Nothing will shock me. Nothing will surprise me anymore. You are not alone with like what you were thinking. Trust me in that. Everybody has these same questions at this kind of age. So please leave those down below. We would love to hear them. We're going to send you a whoosh of love to end. 3, 2, 1. Whoosh.
Here are some resources for further support.
1-800-MY-OPTIONS 1-800-696-784
Lifeline 131114. Beyond Blue 1300-224-636. 1-800-RESPECT 1-800-737-732. Suicide Callback Services 1300-659-467. 13-YARN 139276. QLife 1-800-184-527. Kids Helpline 1-800-55-1800. There's a QR code for further resources.